Well, hello and welcome to the Photo Focus Lightroom Hangout for February, where this is a live Q&A session. Unfortunately, my co-host Levi is probably out saving a kitten from a tree or jumping over a tall building or something because he's not here yet. So I'm hoping he tunes in, but I think thanks to all your questions, I think we'll have enough stuff that we can go on, and Levi will come along. He is on the West Coast, and it's a bit earlier there, so I'm sure he's not just sleeping in. All right, so I got a bunch of questions that are coming in, and some that were sent offline to me, and just some stuff that I want to go through. If you haven't seen one of our Lightroom Hangouts before, it's very casual. We try to just answer your questions based on some theme, and all of our Hangouts are archived and available on photofocus.com. Going way back to, this is, I think, 1 year anniversary. We started January of last year. So yeah, so I guess this is our 13th one. We've had some great guests, and hopefully we'll have some more in the future. I know we've got a few lined up for the next couple of months that I'm excited about. So some of the questions coming in, I want to just kind of say off the bat that anything related to the future version of Lightroom, I can't answer. I just don't know. People that do know can't say. People that don't know can only guess. So I'm not going to bother guessing about stuff. I might, if you have any questions about that relate to Lightroom 5, I'll try my best to answer. But speculative stuff, I can't tell you. So sorry about that. So without Levi here, I'm going to have to take some time to kind of look at the Q&A and come back and go back and forth. So you have to bear with me on that. Let's see. Questions coming in. All right. People are starting to come online here. Great. I'm going to post in the Hangout area. Oh, there's also some questions there, so I'll flip back over to there. For anyone just listening, there's a Q&A button you want to hit, and that way I can see your questions as they're coming in by watching the stream, and I don't have to kind of keep switching back and forth. So I'm just going to put a reminder out that. All right, so let's just jump in. Look at all these questions. All right, let's try and go through some of these real quick, and then I can get into showing some Lightroom stuff. My catalog has a Lightroom 3 name. Can I create a new catalog from my current version of Lightroom? Stephen is asking this question, and that's a good question. It's one actually I get quite a bit, and has a couple of parts. So one part of your question is the name of the catalog. Okay, so the catalog name can be anything you want. It could be called Bob, could be called Jim, could be called Lightroom, could be called Lightroom Catalog, could be called whatever you want. There's been this kind of normal behavior on Lightroom's part that when you install Lightroom and create a catalog for the first time, it embeds that version of Lightroom in the catalog name. And I guess I can kind of understand the logic for that, but it's not really important. Lightroom doesn't care. But over time, what I find is it winds up getting a bit confusing for people when they have newer versions and they're looking and they're trying to make sense of it. This can get complicated further by, say you start with Lightroom 3 and you skip Lightroom 4, and now you have Lightroom 5 and you install Lightroom 5. What the normal process is to upgrade a copy of your Lightroom 3 catalog. And when you first launch Lightroom, it should prompt you through that process. And what it does by default is it creates this copy of your Lightroom 3 catalog, in this case, in the same folder as your existing Lightroom 3 catalog. And it uses the same file name, Lightroom 3 catalog. But what it also has to do so that it doesn't overwrite your old catalog, because Lightroom tries not to touch your original Lightroom 3 or Lightroom 4 or whatever Lightroom catalog you had started with. So it appends a -2 to the end of the file name to make it a unique name. Over time, I see people winding up with these folders full of catalogs with names that maybe made sense at the time, but now are through a couple versions and have a couple dashes, and it's very confusing. So let me show you how you can actually change your catalog's name and walk you through that process. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. All right, let's go over to Lightroom. All right, so if you don't know where your catalog is, that's kind of a first step. All right, so if you go up to the Lightroom menu, if you're on a Mac, if you're on Windows, this would be under the Edit menu, and go to Catalog Settings. And this opens up the Catalog Settings dialog box, and it shows you where your catalog lives. And this is the default location inside your Pictures folder. There's a Lightroom folder, and then there's Lightroom 5 Catalog in this case. All right. Once you know where it is, that's great. If you click this Show button, it's going to actually open a Finder window, or if you're on Windows, it'll open a Windows Explorer window, and it's going to show you that folder and those files. Let me just go right into that Lightroom folder so we can see what's in here. So the catalog file has this LRCAT file extension. That's your catalog. That's the most important one. When Lightroom is open, we're going to have this journal file and this lock file, which you see in the background here. Lightroom is open. All right. Then there's going to be a Lightroom 5, or whatever the catalog's name is, preview file. And this is where your previews, all the thumbnails we're seeing back here, that's where those are stored, and that's where Lightroom pulls from. So if all of these photos were offline, assuming the previews had been rendered, I would be able to still see these thumbnails because Lightroom is pulling from this preview cache, not from the actual photos themselves in this case. Now, if I come back here and I just close Lightroom, I'll skip the backup and go back to this window. That journal file and that lock file went away. All right. And so those are just temporary files that appear when the catalog's open. Don't touch them. Don't do anything with them. Just close Lightroom, and now they're gone away. So now I have Lightroom closed, and I want to rename it. So maybe I want to take this 5 out just because it's not necessary. So start with the catalog, and whatever you're going to name the catalog, you're going to use that same name for your preview cache. And I'm just going to take that 5 out, and then I'll go up here, and I'll take the 5 out of here. And now I've renamed the catalog, and I could have renamed it anything. I could have just called it My Photo Catalog or whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. All right. Once you've done that, the easiest thing to do from here, now we'll talk about this in a second, but if I just went down and launched Lightroom, it would try to find my old catalog that no longer exists because I changed the name. So to save Lightroom that particular heartbreak, let's just double click on the catalog file, and it will just open that catalog file right inside of Lightroom. I don't have to bother going and opening Lightroom and trying to figure out where the catalog is. I'm looking at it, just double click it and open it up into Lightroom. Now, if I had done that with my Lightroom 3 catalog and I had Lightroom 5 installed, it would say, hey, this catalog needs to be upgraded. You want me to go through that process? So that's fine too. If you have an older version of Lightroom and you just want to rename it before you start, that's fine. Instead of just opening that catalog into Lightroom 3, into Lightroom 5, it'll walk you through the process of upgrading a copy. And then once that process is done, you'll move forward with the upgraded copy. Once that's done and you're happy and you're satisfied that catalog is working and everything's in it, you can delete the old Lightroom 3 catalog. You don't need to keep that anymore. I do recommend backing up, and we'll talk about backing up catalogs. So here, that same catalog just opened up right where I left off, and I'm going to go back to that catalog settings dialog. Here's just another way you can get to it. If you open up the preferences on the general, there's a little button there. It takes you right to it. So here I am, still in the Lightroom folder, and now that's been changed. And that's great. I want to just make sure I'm opening the right catalog. And now I'm going to go to the preferences, and this is really important. This is really, really important. Go to the General tab of Preferences. On Mac, it's under the Lightroom folder. On Windows, it's under Edit. And change your default catalog setting here. All right. See here, it's still pointing, it's trying to find that Lightroom 5 one. All right. Like I said before, if I just launch Lightroom 5 directly, it would try to find this catalog that doesn't exist anymore, at least not with that name. But by opening up that catalog directly, that path gets written to the preferences. So there it is. This is the newly named catalog. That's the one I want to select. By default, Lightroom is set to load most recent. Don't use that. I don't know why they do that. I can't tell you how many tears and heartbreak I've experienced with people who use this and then accidentally or purposely open a different catalog because they're exploring or checking things out or who knows what they're doing. They close Lightroom, and because of this load most recent setting, the next time you launch Lightroom, it just opens the last one you used. Where that gets really problematic is if people create Lightroom backup copies. That's good. But then they open up an old backup copy just to see what's in there. And they go, oh, okay, that's nothing. It just looks like a Lightroom catalog. They close Lightroom, then they just relaunch Lightroom again. Guess what happens? It opens that old backup copy, and they don't even realize it. So don't ever use load most recent. All right. Prompt me when starting is a safer choice because then you're always in the driver's seat and you are choosing that catalog. But if you don't want to do that every time and you only have one catalog, then just choose that specific catalog and be done with it. All right. So let me go back here and go back to this. So, Stephen, hopefully I answered your question. You also asked, can I create a new catalog from my current version of Lightroom? Sure, you can always go file, new catalog, and create a new catalog at any time. So hopefully that answers your question. Thank you. Fortunately, I have not seen any sign of Levi. So hopefully Levi, come on, Levi. Moving on down. Ken Dunham says, I've got a bit of mess in my library. Well, Ken, you're in good company because that's 90% of the people I deal with. How do I start over? Yeah, well, sometimes starting over from scratch is a good strategy. Sometimes it's just easier to cut your losses, start fresh, and come back at it anew. Now, it's easy for me to say because I'm not the one potentially losing anything, but with people I've worked with, and I'm working with someone right now who's in that same position, what you want to do, all right, so keeping in mind, Lightroom, all the work you do inside of Lightroom is stored inside the Lightroom catalog. That means every keyword you apply, color label, every slider you move, all that stuff is stored in the Lightroom catalog. By default, that's the only place it's kept. Now, there is a setting inside of Lightroom, which I can show you, that will have Lightroom automatically write everything that it can write to the metadata of each photo in the library, right? But that's not turned on by default. Somewhat separate issue, but let's just put that aside for now. So assuming you haven't turned that on, all your work is just in the Lightroom catalog. So if you were to start over from scratch, what you risk losing is all of that work you did inside of Lightroom. You won't lose your photos if you delete the catalog, but you'll lose all the work you did, which is probably can be significant for different people. So here's what you can do. You can open up your catalog. All right, you can go expand the catalog panel, click on all photographs, and in grid view, select all your photos. So you have every single photo in your catalog selected, and go press Command if you're on Mac, or Control if you're on Windows, S, Command or Control S, and that's going to have, that says Lightroom, write everything that you can from the catalog to every photo's own metadata. And you'll see a little progress meter start ticking along. And once that's done, then almost all your work, 99% of your work is written into each photo's XMP metadata file, or into the photo metadata of itself. Well, let me jump over to Lightroom and just show you a couple of things. All right, go to desktop, screen share. All right, back over here to Lightroom. So here's the catalog panel, and here's all photographs. This catalog doesn't have that much in it, but if here I am in grid view, I can do Command A, select all. All right, if I go up to the metadata command here, I can go down here to save metadata to files, Command S, Command and Control S. All right. What you also want to do, let me think this through. I think it's on the catalog settings panel. That's what I'm finding it. So here's the automatically write changes setting. But if you also have been operating on JPEGs and TIFFs in terms of developing them inside of Lightroom, you want to do this too. You want to check, excuse me, you want to check this box too. So if you don't have this checked, you want to manually write from the catalog to all the photos. If you've had this checked all along, then it's been doing it. Lightroom's been doing that behind the scenes. The reason this isn't checked by default currently is because it can provide a bit of a performance hit. Now, it's going to be hardware dependent. If you've got a really current machine and you don't have a lot of data in your catalog, and you're not working on hundreds of files at a time, you probably won't notice that performance hit. But if you notice it, just uncheck it, and manually you can do the same thing. Okay. On my master catalog on my desktop machine, I don't have that checked, but on this machine I do. It's entirely up to you, personal choice. But here's the important thing to keep in mind. Lightroom can't write every single thing to XMP, to metadata. It cannot write flags. It cannot write virtual copies. It cannot write all the individual history steps. It just saves the last current settings, but not every single step you took along the way. And it can't store regular collection membership. So if you had a collection called My Birthday and you had all your birthday photos in it, Lightroom can't write that information to the photo. So those things would be lost. No way around that if you were to delete your catalog, even if you wrote everything to XMP. So kind of back up, if you want to start over, the first thing I do is open your catalog, write all that information to your photos as best as it can. Know that you might lose flags and individual history steps, collection membership, nothing that's super really hard to recover, but just know that going forward. And virtual copies, that might be the most painful one if you're someone who uses them all the time. Now, if you wanted to, you can, let me share my screen again. Lightroom has a funny relationship with virtual copies and what's called snapshots. So let me just jump to one where I know I've got a snapshot here. So take this photo into develop, just press the D key. And here we have a snapshot, all right? So in the snapshot panel, it's kind of like a virtual copy in a way, is it allows you to save settings at a certain period of time, and you can go back to them, all right? So if I were to now just reset this photo back to the beginning, all right? I have my history steps. Here's all my history steps. That's something that could not be written to XMP, only the final steps, all right? But if I had a snapshot, then I can just click on my snapshot and I can go right back to whatever the state the snapshot was in. If I were to create a virtual copy of this, all right, and so all I did was right click and choose virtual copy. See down here in the film strip, I have two versions now, and one of them has this little page curl icon. That page curl icon tells you it's a virtual copy. All right, now I'm working on the virtual copy, and let's say I made it grayscale, just so it's an obvious difference. All right, so here's a grayscale version of this. If I were now to write all this information to the photo's metadata, I would lose that virtual copy. This would be gone. Couldn't save it. But what I could do is create a virtual copy. Create a snapshot. I'll call this black and white. Right? See how the snapshots between virtual copies are shared? So here's the final that was in my original source file. Now I have a black and white snapshot preserving this state. If I switch back to the original master version, there's that black and white snapshot. So if you had virtual copies that you really had to save and you didn't want to lose, make a snapshot of it. It'll be stored, and snapshots can be written to XMP metadata. And that's a way to preserve it. So hope that helps. Once you've gotten all that information written to your photos, then you can close Lightroom down, and what I recommend is use whatever tool you're most familiar with for organizing your photos, whether it's Finder or Windows Explorer or Bridge or whatever file browser you like. Get your photos organized in some way that means something to you, something that's logical, scalable, simple. And once you've got all that organized, I recommend doing that, creating that folder structure, whatever it looks like, inside of a single parent folder, so that when you go to import this stuff back into Lightroom, in your brand new catalog, you would select that top parent folder, and then on the import dialog, you just choose that top parent folder, check the box for include subfolders, use the add option, and then import, and it'll port everything back into your new catalog, and all of that metadata that you wrote to the photos in your old catalog, that's going to come in during this new import. So you'll be able to get back most of everything you had started with the exception of things I mentioned before. So hope that helps you. If you have any more questions about that, feel free to hit me up on Google Plus or wherever, and I'd be happy to try and help you through that a little bit better. All right, moving along. Clark, will Apple doing away with aperture slow down the advancement of Lightroom due to lack of competition? Well, I can't honestly know that, but my guess would be no. I think there's plenty of other photo editing tools out there that maybe aren't exactly like Lightroom, but the landscape is changing all the time. There's a product called Mylio. There's the whole mobile side of things. There was just this one I saw released, I think it was Mac only. Can't remember the name of it now, but it was more like a Photoshop kind of program. But no, there's just too much competition coming for them to stop, in my opinion. Okay, I don't know. I don't work for Adobe, so I can't answer. All right. Hope that helps, Clark. Looking for another question here. Gary, I realize I cannot answer questions for Lightroom 6, but I'm wondering if there is one or more additions or improvements that you would consider outstanding or long time coming. All right. So this is just kind of opinion ranting time. One of the things that I just kind of went through, one of the things that I would love to see them do away with is, and this is really seems really minor, but is get rid of that load most recent option inside of the Lightroom preferences for selecting catalog. Because in my role as Lightroom help desk person, I've just spent so much time helping people because of that setting. So I'd like to see that gone away. That's a long time coming. That's what I'd like to see. That would make me happy. Now, obviously, that's not very exciting for most people who don't run into that. But so some of the things I hope to see. So what we saw, if you're a Creative Cloud subscriber and you've got the latest version of Photoshop and the latest version of Camera Raw, one of the things that you saw in there was if you're using radial filter or graduated filter, it's now possible in the Camera Raw plugin to kind of brush away those areas. So say you did a graduated filter across the sky, but there were mountains or buildings or something into that sky. And now currently in Lightroom, if you just drag that across, you're going to be affecting whatever juts above the horizon line. If you use the Camera Raw plugin, you can paint away those edits on those buildings or mountains or whatever are in the foreground. So what's one of the things I hope to see coming over to Lightroom? Why is that not in Lightroom now? Well, Lightroom's in this funny position because Lightroom is part of the Creative Cloud subscription, in that if you either get the photography plan or if you get the full bundle or whatever other things they have, Lightroom is part of that. But Lightroom is also still part of a perpetual license plan. So you can just spend $130 or whatever the price is, and you buy Lightroom 3 license, Lightroom 5 license, and you just have it. It's not part of any kind of subscription. Or if you had an older version of Lightroom, you could upgrade, whatever the upgrade price is. So because Lightroom is on kind of both sides of that, they can't release new features kind of all the time. They have to wait for a new release. So that's something I hope to see in whatever version of Lightroom comes out next. What other things? I'd love to see more attention paid to some of the other modules that didn't get a whole lot of attention. Speaking of web, book a little bit, I think could use some new things, and slideshow. Those output modules haven't really changed a whole lot, and certainly been no shortage of suggestions of things that could be added there. So those probably could be due for some freshening up. So hopefully that helps. All right. Mike, Lightroom 6 question. Will Lightroom 6 local adjustments have the full functionality of Develop module? I have no idea. Sorry, Mike. Couldn't even tell you that. Historically speaking, Lightroom only tends to build on functionality and features. So something that is in Lightroom tends to stay in Lightroom. It's still a pretty young product in certain ways. So I don't see anything changing in that regard. But all right. Hey, someone I know, Bryce. Yeah. So if you haven't already covered it, I logged in late. Well, so did my co-host. So you're not alone. Levi, I'm making fun of you wherever you are. What's the best strategy using Lightroom with both a laptop and desktop, with the desktop being your main catalog? Well, that's kind of how I work already. And there's probably a couple ways to approach this. And I guess I kind of prefer a more old school approach in that I have an external hard drive that's connected, but it looks like an external hard drive would look. That's my phone, but you know what I mean. It's a little thing. So if you have an external hard drive of large enough capacity, you can actually store your all of your photos and your Lightroom catalog on that external hard drive and physically swap it between your laptop and desktop, or any other computer you happen to come across that has Lightroom running. You just plug that drive in, you open up your catalog, and you just picked up where you left off. The reason I like that strategy is because it gives you just a single catalog that you have to work with. So there's no syncing, there's no updating. It's just the work you do is the work you have, and you bring it with you all the time. Obviously, a downside of that is having all your work stored on a single external hard drive is potentially risky. External hard drives are more prone to failure and being dropped, being lost, being stolen, all of the above. So if you go that route, you have to be really careful about regularly backing up that external hard drive lots of times. So if you did ever lose something, it would be really, hopefully, very, very minor. In a similar way, when I travel, excuse me, I have a Lightroom catalog I keep on my laptop, and I'll have it, that's kind of my transitional catalog. And so I'll bring in new work on that while I'm on the road, while I'm traveling. When I come back, I can use the catalog export functionality, export that as a new catalog to external hard drive, bring it over to my desktop machine, use the file, import from another catalog, and bring all that data into my new catalog, as well as copy the photos over to my primary storage location, get that all backed up, and so on. So if you want to have it with you all the time, having it all on an external hard drive is really the most practical way to do it. Some people try using, Dropbox and network situations, and I think they can work. And I have seen where those things become problematic for people because Lightroom just isn't designed to work that way. And I don't know. So I don't recommend doing it, but people certainly keep trying because it's the reality of how we work. So I don't begrudge anyone trying to do it that way. I just wish it was easier on the Lightroom side. So I'll add that to my other one. I wish there was better ways for people to work with multiple users, multiple catalogs, and in a network environment. So I'll put that on my list to that earlier question I think Ken asked. So hopefully that helps. But it's a tricky one, because you're kind of limited to how Lightroom lets you do it. But I'm glad you made it. All right. Great questions so far. Let's see. Lars, I recently brought a subscription to Creative Cloud. As I already had Lightroom 5 installed, I did only install Photoshop. Now when Lightroom is coming, now when Lightroom, whatever, I guess next is coming, how do I secure my settings, presets, when I install Lightroom 6 from the Creative Cloud? Well, by default, you shouldn't have to do anything. Let me share my screen. This is a good question. It comes up a bit. So I go over to Lightroom Preferences again. If I was on Windows, this would be under Edit. And I come over to the Preset tab. Now, by default, this location checkbox here is unchecked. And that's good. When that's unchecked, that means that all of your presets, templates, and that includes everything in Develop. It includes your text templates for slideshow or web. It includes your file name templates for renaming. All that stuff is all stored in this central location somewhere in your operating system. If you're unsure where that is, if you'd like to know where that is, and you want to make sure you're backing that stuff up, if you click this Show Lightroom Presets folder button, boom, it opens it up. So here it is, Users, Rob, Library, Application Support, Adobe Lightroom. And inside that Lightroom folder, there's all of my presets and templates and so on. So first thing, check, make sure you're backing this up. That's just good. Hopefully it's included in your full system backup, whatever people use for that, but don't forget these guys. But if I were to install Lightroom next, and historically speaking, when I went from Lightroom 1 to 2, and 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, and now 4 to 5, it worked the same way. I didn't have to do anything. All I did was open up Lightroom of the new version and updated my catalog, or upgraded a copy of my catalog, and everything was there. Nothing more to do. That's just the beauty of it. Now, if I had checked that box about store presets with catalog, then what happens is Lightroom creates a folder called Lightroom Settings right inside the same folder as your current Lightroom catalog that you had open at the time. And now all of the presets and things that I create are only kind of married to that particular catalog file, right? One of the problems is that when you first check that box, here, let me share my screen again. I can't remember to always do that. So here we are in Develop, right? And here I have a bunch of presets. Now, if I go to excuse me, Preferences, and I click this button, Store Presets with Catalog, boom, my presets just vanished. They all just went away. All right. Now, if I click on the Show Lightroom Presets folder button, now it doesn't take me to that location deep inside my operating system. It takes me to my Lightroom folder and my Pictures folder, and there's this Lightroom Settings folder. See how much shorter this list is? It doesn't bring over everything that you already had. It kind of starts you over from scratch with less than what you originally had. So when people first check that box because someone tells them it's a good idea to do it, they wind up losing all their presets. And they go, what just happened there? So if I come back over here and I uncheck this, and I uncheck this, there, oh, it's a lag. All right, there we go. And they all came back because now Lightroom, when I'm checking that box, Lightroom is either looking at one location or the other. As soon as I tell it to go back and look in that central location, they all come back. So if you leave that unchecked, then you're golden. Nothing more for you to do. You're all set. So hope that helps. Good question. All right, Mark. Would you advise importing videos into Lightroom? I started to and then rethought that decision, but there isn't an equivalent video management tool to Lightroom, something I would add to my CC subscription in a heartbeat. Yeah, so Lightroom has a kind of, well, it's been around for a little while, but its relationship with video is limited. If you actually go to photofocus.com, I think over the last 2 weeks or so, Rich Harrington, our publisher, editor extraordinaire, has done a series on using video with Lightroom and kind of covers everything you can do with Lightroom and video. So I do it because I only take video as a kind of hobby, casual video user, family kind of stuff. And so it's on my memory card and I just copy it over and keep it there. I don't do big video editing projects where, that you might call for something like Premiere. When I do any video editing, I'll either do it in Lightroom or if it needs a little bit more power, I'll open it up inside of Photoshop. You can do quite a bit of basic video editing inside of Photoshop. So yeah, there's not like a great big management of kind of multiple clips and putting them all in a timeline from Lightroom and doing that kind of thing. So it's limited in that regard, but I still think it's helpful for just your workflow to keep them in some place that you can tag and manage and keep them with the photos that probably are associated with whatever that event or opportunity for taking video was. So would it be great if Lightroom could do more with video? Yeah, sure, that would be great. But for now, yeah, it's kind of limited, but I think keeping it in there, managing it with Lightroom is only going to help you in the long term. So video is not going away. So I can only imagine it gets more integrated. Hope that helps. All right. Grant, what's the best Lightroom book out there to use as a reference? Well, there's a number of good books, and I will obviously plug mine. I have a Lightroom 5 book, streamlining your digital workflow process or something like that. It's probably more like a reference book, but there's other great books. So Martin Evening has a great Lightroom 5 book, excellent reference book. He's been doing them for years, does them from Photoshop too. Phenomenal guy, just fantastic stuff. Scott Kelby has a Lightroom 5 book. I wouldn't say it's a reference book necessarily. It's more of shows you how to do stuff. It kind of takes you through a lot of the workflow steps and lots of great big images. It's a great tool. I think it would go really well with any other book that could be serve as a reference book. But you'll certainly learn everything you need to know from Scott's book as well. Another really excellent book, Victoria Bampton, the Lightroom Queen, has been doing for, I think, probably since Lightroom started. She does a Lightroom FAQ book. Started out as an ebook, and now she does a print version as well. But the ebook is really, really valuable because you can actually search it as a reference, and it's incredibly well done. It's incredibly in depth, and it has really seriously every question I've ever asked about Lightroom is in there with answers. And she's just phenomenal. Just do a search, lightroomqueen.com, I think is her website. I'm hoping to have her on our Hangout in hopefully in April or so. So any of those books should hopefully get you where you need to go. What's best? What I've found as both a writer and consumer of training material is that different people's writing voices and even video voices kind of resonate with us differently. Some people might like the way I write better than others, but some people might prefer the way other people write over how I do. I mean, that's just how it goes. So I would say just, check them all out online. There's so many resources to kind of peek into the books. There's certainly electronic versions of all the books. There's all the reviews. So hopefully that helps you out, but good luck. You can't go wrong with any of those. All right. Hector, I have a 128 gigabyte internal SSD and want to have Lightroom and all relevant files on an external. What's the best way to get all files to move and read from an external drive? Presets, keywords, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's a common question. 128 gigs is, boy, that's just so small. I don't blame you. So the easiest way to get it all to an external hard drive, like all in terms of Lightroom, would be to, so a little bit earlier I showed how if you check that store presets with catalog button, it'll create a folder right with your Lightroom catalog. So that would get all of your presets stored with the catalog. At least it would start that process. The next thing you really have to do, if you have already created a bunch of custom presets and templates and so on, is you have to actually manually copy your custom ones from that central location to that new Lightroom settings folder. And then once you've got them all in that Lightroom settings folder, then they're actually all in there. At that point, there's a couple routes you could take. One would be just to use the catalog export function and export the catalog and copies of all the photos right to the external hard drive. And that way, the benefit of that route is you're creating copies of everything so that if something happened during the transfer process, you wouldn't actually lose anything. You just start over again. And on that, by exporting, the catalog that's created on the external hard drive is now referencing all the photos on the external hard drive. So you don't have to do any kind of update folder, synchronize, find missing folder, that kind of thing. So that might be the most straightforward path, catalog export. The other way would be just to kind of close Lightroom down and use your operating system's file browser, Finder, Windows Explorer, and just copy the Lightroom folder and all of the files within it. So there'd be the Lightroom catalog file, the Lightroom preview cache. If you have Lightroom mobile, there's the little mobile preview cache. If you had smart previews, there's the smart preview cache. And then if you check that Lightroom preset box, then you've got the Lightroom settings folder. Once you have all of that in your Lightroom all that in the folder there. Just copy it. Don't move it. Use the copy function. Copy that to external hard drive. Now the catalog is on the external hard drive, right? But it's still referencing the photos in their current old location, right? So the next move would be, well, maybe your photos are already on your external hard drive, because if you only have 128 gigs, you probably are. So if your photos are already on the external hard drive, you just copy the catalog over, open up that catalog, double click it, make sure you update the preferences to point to the one on the external hard drive. And now Lightroom is going to just keep referencing the photos that are in there on the external hard drive. If they weren't, if the photos were not already on the external hard drive, well, then just copy those over now too. And as soon as you remove them from the original location, you'll see question marks in all the folders, and just use the find missing folder command to redirect the catalog to point to their new home on the external hard drive. And so one way or the other, either catalog export, you're copying stuff over to the external hard drive, creating a new catalog, creating all the photos, and it's all happy there. Or you just manually copying the files over and then making sure that the catalog references the new location. So either way you go. The only thing that's not as intuitive is the presets. And I think hopefully just rewind the archive of the video and you'll see how I did that, so you can find where the presets are stored. So hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, send me another question. I'll try and help you out. Happy to do it. All right, excellent questions. James, will there really be Lightroom 6, or with the demise of Aperture, leaving Lightroom the dominant, slow any future development? Well, I kind of talked about this a little earlier, James. First, I don't know. So having said that, my opinion would be yes, they will continue to develop it and grow it and expand it, and they have to. Everyone's a photographer. There's digital images, videos being created all the times with phones, iPads, DSLR. I mean, there's just so much that there's so many opportunities for any other player to keep building tools to compete. And so Aperture was certainly a competitor, but it's been a long time since Apple did anything for Aperture, and Lightroom still continued to create new features. So with it actually going away, I don't think it's that big a deal. So time will tell. All right, Hector, back again. The Lightroom interface and performance are the main issues I have with Lightroom. I hope that their focus in the next update, any features you're hoping for Adobe to deliver with the next iteration beyond enhancing existing features. Well, I kind of spoke to this already, so I won't go through that again, but just rewind the video and maybe more will come up. But yeah. All right, Gary. As well as using an external hard drive for your catalog, it might be a good idea that people consider cloud backup also in the event there's ever a hard drive failure. Yes, it's certainly worth considering. So I have on my desktop system full backup that backs up to local Drobo drives. Hey, that's one of our sponsors too. And that's great. So I work from home office. So if a meteor crashes down, takes out my whole office, then it takes out my backup too. So having your backup in another actual location is really important. What you can do is physically use that same backup software and duplicate your backup to another drive that you just physically take to your mother's house or take to your office at your job, or take someplace else and you actually store it physically someplace else. The upside of that is it's probably a lot faster to create a backup on a local drive than it takes it to back up to the cloud. So I do also use Crash Plan, which is like Backblaze, and there's Carbonite, and there's others like that. And I think it's been running for, I don't know, a couple of months now, and it still hasn't ever caught up with all of the files that I have to back up. Cloud backup is great, but it's slow. So what I do use on my laptop, when I back up my Lightroom catalog locally on my laptop here, I have the backup location sent to Dropbox. And that way, my backup is stored locally on my laptop here, but it's also stored in the Dropbox cloud, and it's also then synced over to my desktop on Dropbox too. So yes, using cloud some way is great. It's great, especially if you can kind of set it and forget it. It's great. But just remember, it's probably going to lag pretty far behind what you could do locally. But definitely having your stuff backed up in multiple places is only going to help you out. So thank you, Gary. All right, Maria, how are you? May or not be a Lightroom question. Want to try using a Wacom tablet? Only one A in Wacom. Is this useful in Lightroom? And which one would you recommend? Yes, it is. I have two. I love them. What I recommend is the medium size. I actually have a larger one that I keep my desktop, but the medium actually fits right inside my bag, which I can't actually reach right now. And I take it with me everywhere. Now, unfortunately, in Lightroom, it doesn't have the same pressure sensitivity that it's known for in Photoshop. So it's a lot more useful in Photoshop as a tool. But I find just using a pen, get the real one, just using the Wacom pen is much more natural for doing anything that's brush related, strokes, outlines, anything like that. I just find it so much more useful. And for me, for someone who spends way too much time on a computer, it's nice to get a break from a mouse. When I'm on my laptop, I usually just use the trackpad. And while that's great, it's useful. I use it all the time, but to actually try and brush something just using the trackpad, forget about it. So use a Wacom tablet. It's an awesome tool. It takes a little getting used to in the beginning, but it's just a phenomenal. Once you get used to it, it's really second nature. And for me, right lefty, keyboard righty, mouse right. I mean, it's just, I feel like I can get a lot more done that way too. So, and then there's always, you can customize the buttons on this, and the back is a button. I mean, it's just, once you start using it, you'll wonder why it took you so long to start using it. So check it out. And if you're a Kelby One subscriber, Wes Maggio, great guy from Wacom, has a class on Kelby One on setting up your Wacom tablet. Just excellent class. So, okay, Lars, hello again. Do you know if you can simulate a Wacom with an app for an iPad? I think you were saying Wacom, even though there's a V in there. It's a funny word. Can you simulate a Wacom with an app for an iPad? There's a way. There was a way, I'm pretty sure, I think it actually was for Photoshop, that you can essentially turn your iPad into a big trackpad kind of thing. And so you could use a stylus instead of your finger and simulate that. But, I remember using it, and then I just haven't used it because I have the Wacom tablet. But not being particularly helpful, but check that out. I don't know if it works in Lightroom, but I know there are solutions where you can kind of mirror Lightroom or your computer screen to an iPad, and maybe you can use it that way. But I would just get the Wacom tablet. You're just going to be much more happier. You just have much more functionality. It'd be a much better experience. So, okay. Hey, Lars, you're on a roll. Not a question, but I have an external hard drive for my entire library. I use Dropbox for backup my pictures and CrashPlan for secure images in the cloud. CrashPlan takes care of all my backup. Yeah, I use CrashPlan too. It's great, good deal. It's just slow. So if you want to make sure you've got everything backed up the moment you need to have it backed up, it's slow. I mean, it kind of catches up, and then as soon as you dump a bunch of new images and video and whatever, it then lags a bit. So unless maybe you're someplace that's like Google Fiber or something, and you've got much faster upload speeds than I do. All right. Hey, Levon. It's nice to see so many people I know. This spells my name wrong. Great. Is there a quicker way to move several images within collections or folders? For example, I have 500 images in the collection. I want to move a few from the bottom to the top in grid view. I select them and then drag them up, but it's so slow. Well, I mean, if if you're talking about moving in terms of reordering inside of a folder or a collection, then yeah, it's just kind of slow. But if you just wanted to see the ones on the bottom on the top, just reverse the sort order. And by reversing the sort order, they're right into the top. So if you're trying to create like a timeline or a storyline of images in a certain order, then yeah, it's kind of slow. Drag and drop, drag and drop, drag and drop. But if you just want to see those and reverse the order, then there's like an A to Z button. Just click that, and it flips the sort order, and boom, they're at the top. So I don't know if that helps you, but that's, yeah, I don't have a better solution there. Sorry. Okay, yes, I know. I see it all the time. It happens all the time. All right. Thank you. Lars, I don't use Dropbox. I meant Drobo. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Lars saying he uses a Drobo. Yeah, I use Drobo too. That's great. And then Crash Plan up to the cloud or Backblaze or any of those other ones. Do that for you. All right. Looking to make the switch from Aperture. This is Mark. Looking to make the switch from Aperture to Lightroom. What are the most important differences between how the two applications that I need to know before taking the plunge? Well, that's a good question, Mark. I'm going to post on the event page for this Hangout that Rich Harrington had done on Photo Focus, a really, really in-depth look at this question and this issue. There's also great resources out there if you just did a Google search on it. Hey, check out Lightroom Queen. She's got a great thing on it as well. There's a new feature came out in Lightroom 5.7 for that. So, Mark, check out the link I just posted in the Hangout event page there. That should give you way more information than I could convey in the time we have left on our Hangout here. But good question. Definitely hear from more Aperture users these days. Okay, Clark. What's the best way to use Lightroom mobile to limit using excessive data? You know, I don't have my Lightroom mobile, my phone attached to my computer, so I can't show you that way. But the best way is to, all right. So if you tap if you're in Lightroom mobile, this is on my phone. If you just tap the Lightroom logo there, you get to these preferences. And there's one that says sync only over Wi-Fi. All right. And once you turn that sync only over Wi-Fi on, then it won't use up your data plan when you're not on a Wi-Fi. So that's the best way to make sure it doesn't do that. And the downside obviously is that it won't do the sync until you get on a Wi-Fi network somewhere and have Lightroom Mobile open, because it doesn't do it when it's not open, and then it does it. So hopefully that answers your question. Levon, I meant sorting. So hopefully Adobe. Yeah, sorry. Just shoot less. Have a smaller collection, like 10 images. It's much faster that way. That wasn't helpful, I know, sorry. All right, Maria, back again. One more question. I have asked before and gotten the answer. Sometimes when I import to Photoshop and then save, it saves the file at the end of the thumbnail row because I believe you told me it was a filter, but for some reason can't find it now. Oh, okay, so a lot of times the sorting option in your folder, collection, or whatever view gets set to when added or edit time or something like that. And so that when you send a copy to Photoshop for editing and you come back to Lightroom, you'll see that that photo you just were starting on is now way at the end of the sort order. Well, if you just change your sort in the toolbar or under view sort, change that to capture time or file name, then they sync right back together and nobody goes jumping to the end of the line. So just check your sort order. And I don't know why it changes. Sometimes it just seems to change on its own. That's happened to me before, and I don't know. Maybe that's in Victoria's book. I'll go look that up, see if that's in there. But I don't know everything. All right, Bill. Could I talk more about the Lightroom mobile app and why we might want to use it? Yes. Let me see if I can make a switch here so that I can plug in I can actually show you this as I'm talking about it. So what I need to do is change my mic. And so if the audio quality changes a little bit here, I have my apologies, but I'm just gonna have to unplug this big honking mic in front of my face. If you can't hear me, chime in the Q&A and I will try and do something different, but I'm going to try and show Lightroom mobile app here. And what's a cool function inside of the latest Mac operating system is you can actually kind of do a screen share right from your iPhone or iPad and using QuickTime. So I'm going to open up QuickTime here. That's what my little bit of a delay is as I'm looking around here. And it's just taking a little time for me to open up QuickTime. Let me see if there's another question that I'll try and address while I'm waiting for this to open. I do not get video from Lightroom. It is always the wrong file type. I've tried several file forms. The video clips I brought there, MP4, QuickTime video clips. Yeah, this person, I can't even pronounce your name. I'm sorry if it's a name that I should be able to pronounce, but Lightroom's video functionality is really specifically somewhat narrowly tailored to video created by DSLRs and phones, and maybe not even all of them. There's a lot of different video formats and different ways videos created and different video metadata things that can stump Lightroom. So unfortunately, it's not a universal video tool. It's somewhat limited in that way. So if you're finding that there's video files that just don't come into Lightroom, they're just probably not supported. If you do a Google search on Lightroom video support, there's a page from Adobe that tells you all the file types that are supported. But even within certain file types, there could be certain problems depending on where that video was created from, where it originated from. So I'm talking myself through this so that I can set up my phone here, and I can switch over to that. Oh, good. More questions are coming in as I'm doing that. All right, here. Let's see. Turn off that hotspot. And took my source here to my phone. Trying. Sorry for that delay. I wasn't planning to do that. All right, sorry for that. Still trying. All right. Oh, here's Victoria jumping in. Thank you, Victoria. Victoria says, switching the custom sort order is usually because you accidentally dragged slightly in the film strip. Probably shouldn't be as sensitive. So that question earlier about having photos jumping to the back could be caused if you accidentally kind of drag in the film strip. It could set it to a custom order, and then things change. So thank you for chiming in, Victoria. It's good to see you there. So just be aware of that. If things just go to the end, check your sort order. That's just kind of what if all of a sudden I see that happen to me. All right, come on, screen recording. I'm having more trouble than I anticipated getting my phone to show up. Hey, there we go. All right. All right, let me switch over to all right, so hopefully you're seeing my phone now. Oh yeah, it looks like it. Good. All right, so if you rotate your phone, it actually rotates the screen capture, so I'll try not to do that. So the question that came up before was about Lightroom Mobile, and just talk about that a little bit. So let me talk a little bit about it. So this is Lightroom Mobile on my phone. When Lightroom Mobile first came out, it was only available on the iPad, and then iPhone support came out. And then more recently, Android phone support came out. So what's great about Lightroom Mobile is that they're really continuing to develop it, and they're not constrained by version dates to add new features. So new features get added all the time, and somewhat continuously, and sometimes without us even realizing that they were added. So what's cool about it, especially on my phone, is that, so I have this collection on the top here called with my snowy dog, because I live in New Hampshire, And we've got, I don't know, probably about 5 feet of snow or more this winter. And this was one of the blizzards. He loves the snow. And anyway, what's great about is all the pictures I take on my iPhone, I can automatically have imported into this one collection right here on Lightroom Mobile. And then these photos taken on my phone automatically get synced up to my Lightroom Mobile, to my Lightroom catalog on my laptop, and all of the JPEGs, the full-size JPEGs, automatically get synced over to my Lightroom catalog, which is great. What's also cool, a recent addition, recent update in Lightroom Mobile, I think it's like 1.31 or something like that, just came out. And what was cool in this new feature, in this little update, was it allows you to copy and paste settings. So here I'm looking at a photo that I took more for getting the GPS of this location I was at. But what I did on my Lightroom catalog on my desktop was you can actually apply a lens correction to iPhone photos. There's a lens profile for iPhone photos, which is kind of neat. This new functionality allows you to actually copy settings from a photo. And all I did was kind of do a long tap, and this little dialog appeared, and I choose copy settings. And then I can choose what settings I want to copy over. And in this case, I'm going to deselect all, and really all I want is lens corrections. All right, and click OK here. And then I can go back to my iPhone collection. And the way this automatically works, if I just tap on this here, I can see that I can manually add from the camera roll, but I can, the next one down here is auto import. If I tap it now, it'll disable it. I don't want to do that. But if way back when I started this, I enabled auto import. So every time I open up Lightroom Mobile, any new photos in my camera roll get automatically added right in here. All right. So as new photos come in that were taken with my iPhone, let's see if I can find an example of that. So here's my son snow blowing. Now I can paste the settings right onto that and have my, in this case, all I transferred over was the lens correction. But what's cool is in Lightroom Mobile, there's currently the settings that we can apply here are pretty much limited to the ones in the basic panel, right? And most times that's, you know, at this stage, it's new, but there's no way to add a lens correction via the settings that are in here. So by using that copy paste routine, I'm able to apply settings that I couldn't otherwise apply. So that's kind of neat. What's also cool about it is it gives you a way to almost have an online a portfolio of stuff that you can kind of pull out on your phone, and you just have right in there, all synced from your Lightroom catalog. You can have as many of these as you want. There's another function called Lightroom Web, where you can essentially see all of these collections. You can put them on Lightroom. Is it lightroom.adobe.com? Victoria, help me remember that one off the top of my head. But you can also, by using this Lightroom Web functionality, I can share this. Hey, Pandora is telling me by Frank Sinatra Radio has a new song in it. I can share this online and actually say I could share it with you, and you could actually provide some comments to some photos. You can like them or not, and I would get that feedback right back into my Lightroom mobile app and right back into my Lightroom catalog. What's also cool is then the functionality, any changes I make inside the Lightroom mobile app, they get uploaded to the cloud, and then if I switch back to my Lightroom catalog, I could see those changes appear right away. So earlier I made that virtual copy of this photo, and I was doing that from within a collection that was synced to Lightroom Mobile. While I was talking, that black and white version got uploaded to the cloud and then landed over here on my phone. All right, what I could do, just out of curiosity, I'll just reset this back to scratch here. All right, and I'll come back to, you have to come back to, I'm pretty sure this happens all the time, but sorry, it's getting over a cold. You have to come back to your grid view, and then you see this little cloud icon is kind of bubbling up. That's telling me that that data was being synced. If I come back over to my Lightroom catalog. And back here. And so that photo, that virtual copy I created before and made black and white, and then I reset just a second ago in Lightroom mobile app, that went up to the cloud and came back down to my Lightroom catalog and reverted this back to its normal, its import state. So I can work this way between the two, and it creates kind of a fluid thing. So is there a lot more features and functionality I'd like to see in Lightroom Mobile? Is there a lot more I could say about it? Yeah, but we actually did a whole show on Lightroom Mobile. If you look in the archives on Photo Focus for this, you can probably learn more there. And it's something you kind of just got to keep up with because it just keeps being updated all the time. So hopefully that answered your question. All right, this one I talked about before, so let me clear this one off the list. All right, and since Levi didn't appear, I'm hoping he's doing something really, really fun and exciting that I can't wait to hear about when I talk to him. So, James, I originally brought Lightroom 5, but then downloaded Lightroom 5 CC. A common misconception that there's a Lightroom 5 CC, but I know what you mean. As part of the photography deal. Now, when there's a Lightroom update and I do it, when I launch Lightroom 5, I get the splash screen for a couple secs. To solve, I have to reinstall my purchase copy. Then all's okay. Okay, let me have a little coffee. All right. It's important to point out that the Lightroom 5 is Lightroom 5, whether you've purchased the perpetual license or you're doing the subscription. What I've found historically is that the updates for the perpetual license seem to be released a little quicker, in that, or at least they're available a little quicker than the notification in my Lightroom, in my Creative Cloud app tells me. But otherwise, they're the same. It's the same version of Lightroom. So what sometimes I'll do is, if I want to get the update, is I'll just download the perpetual version update, but then I'll see that in my Lightroom, in my Creative Cloud app, it's saying that Lightroom isn't installed. Well, at whatever point I take the time, I will just reinstall the app. I'll uninstall the app and then just re-download from the cloud, and then it's synced back up with the Creative Cloud again. So I think it's probably just a feature of this Lightroom straddling both sides of that fence for as long as that lasts. But up till now, and I don't see it changing, but I have no way to know. I always have to put all those caveats, but I don't know. Lightroom version, if you have the perpetual license, it's the same as the one that's in the cloud. So you don't have to change that. I mean, if your perpetual license of Lightroom 5, you can just keep using it because it's the same as in the cloud. When Lightroom Next comes out, then you'll have, if you're a Creative Cloud subscriber, then you have the opportunity to download the next version of Lightroom and install it. But you can have multiple versions of Lightroom installed at the same time. So there's no harm there either. So if you have a perpetual license and you get the subscription deal because you want Photoshop, you don't have to change Lightroom. But you can, because it's the same version of Lightroom. But the real key will be when the next version of Lightroom comes out, you'll want to download that from the cloud because you're paying for it. You don't want to, you could, I guess, buy also the perpetual license, but you probably don't need to spend money twice on that. And you should be good to go. I don't know if I fully answered your question because I'm not sure I fully understood it. So maybe if I didn't answer your question, just re-ask that and I'll try again. But sorry, sometimes trying to answer these on the fly, I do my best. Oh, Diana, I'm glad you posted that here. I was going to try and speak to that, even though I don't have any great revelational answer. Diana asks, is the golden spiral crop in Lightroom correct? It seems different. I don't know. I never measured it. Is it correct? I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just a guide, so I guess it would probably, if you got out, protractor or something, and you measured all the angles and to see if it measured correctly, I honestly don't know. But remember, it's just a guide. There's no real rule that says that you have to use it. But if you think that it's off, maybe it is. Maybe it's not correct, or maybe it changes. Maybe there's one aspect ratio of a photo that it looks best at. I don't know. So I've never been asked that question before. If anybody else knows, please chime in. I did never look at that closely, but maybe I will. I'll try and take a closer look at that and see. If anybody knows the answer, I'd love to hear it. So sorry, Diana, it wasn't very helpful on that one. So what's nice with Levi not here is that I'm just continuing to answer these questions and keep going. We also give away some prizes with these Hangouts, and I kind of forgot to mention that at the beginning. And what we usually do is have people ask questions in the Q&A. We had so many great questions. I think what would be the best thing to do, if you're still here, you're hanging in this long, we've been for over an hour, just listening to me ramble on, leave a comment on the event page, because I won't be able to track the Q&A and everything else and then try and pick a winner at the same time. But if you leave a question or just a post, or just say hey, or just say something on the event page, just leave some kind of post on there so it registers your name. In a few minutes here, I will jump in over there and pick a couple names, because I know we have, from our fine sponsors, we have an On1 suite to give away, and I think we even have a Creative Cloud suite to give away. Levi is usually the keeper of the prizes, but off the top of my head, I know we have those two. And I can also throw in a Peach Pit book from Peach Pit Press, because I have some of those to give away. Just because that's a bonus, because you hung out with me all alone for this long. So I write for Peach Pit, so I like them. So it's not my book, but I have a couple of good ones to give away. So if you haven't already, you don't have to. If you already put some kind of post on the event page, that's great. But if you want to jump in, you throw your hat in for one of those prizes, leave a post on there, and I will pick a couple, and I will contact you and give them to you somehow. Okay. All right. Next question. Right. So it looks like smart collections can't be synced to the cloud Lightroom mobile. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Is it something people ask about? Yes, it is. Is it something people would like? Yes. Yes, it is. But it is not currently a possibility. Mike says, enter me, please. Mike, if you would just put that enter me, please, not in the Q&A part, but right on the Hangout page, the event page, the place where you kind of launched this thing from, or you'll see it on the Google Plus Hangout side there. Just because once I click these, they kind of go away. And I won't be able to, without my other set of eyeballs here, I can't track everything at once. Let me skip down here to Vaughn. Not sure if you can answer this, but which is more critical, having a fast video card or faster processor? Or if on the processor side, more cores? Well, that's not my forte, but my understanding is that if you had to pick one, having a faster processor would probably give you the best bang for your buck in terms of Lightroom at this stage. That's my best guess. If anybody knows differently, please feel free to chime in. But that's my understanding. If you had all those things, it would be awesome. Yes, but if you had to pick one, I think, or at least the one I think that has the biggest impact right now, yeah, probably faster processor. But moving into the future, yeah, more cores, fast video card, can't go wrong with those either. So. Where is this event page, Gary says? That's the page like on Google Plus where you saw this event, however you got here. Or even if you leave them if you're on the photo focus page watching it from there, just leave a comment there. I can look on it there. I just need some place where I can see your name and it'll stay. Oh, look at that, Victoria. Here's the link to the event page for those who need it. There it is. And if I share my screen, it looks like this. Here's the event page, Google Plus, Lightroom Hangout. And then here's where people are putting in their 2 cents worth here. And that's a really nice screen capture of me at the moment. So let me thank again my sponsors, Adobe. Thank you. Drobo, thank you. Songfreedom, thank you very much. And thank you all for tuning in. So let me go through. We got a couple of questions here. Let me try and get through those since you guys all hung out, and then we'll oops, stop infinite screen share there. Ken is asking, which Wacom tablet do I use? I think you said I used two. Yeah, I have a large one, and then I have a medium one. I find the medium one it fits right in with my 15-inch laptop in the same bag, nice and easy. It's a good size. I don't have to do lots of big motions to do it, and it's cheaper. So I don't know what the number size is, but there's like a large, and then there's a medium, and then there's a small. So go medium. If you have the opportunity to go where they're selling them and try them, that might help you too. But my experience, the medium probably is a good compromise in size. And I don't know, you can see my desk right now. It's a disaster that there's room for anything, but I don't have a lot of room anyway. So, and then when I travel, I like having that one I can just slide into my laptop bag without too much fuss. So. Okay, so let me skip down here. Levant, last time I used Lightroom Mobile, I wasn't able to custom sort my images, so I turned off sync. Do they update that feature? I'm trying to sync some images now to try it. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think you can do it in the app. But yeah, I don't. Sorry, I have to look and try it. But you're doing that now, so I'll let you do it. You can tell me. All right. Last question here. Can you take us through your workflow, please? Well, Lars, it's a big question. That probably could be a whole hangout in and of itself. And I probably at this point, I can't. If I start it, I mean, we're gonna look at another hour of Hangout time. So I'm gonna file that away for a future Hangout where we just kind of go through workflows. And I think that's a good topic. So I hate to put you off that way, but only because we're 20 minutes over, and it's a huge one. I would want to if I just rush through it, it's not gonna tell you too much. So we'll table that. How about that? We'll table that for the future. So thank you. Maria went over to the Wacom.com site and saw the Cintiq and is now drooling. Yes, that's what happens. And if you have a lot of money, they're awesome. And if you have a really lot of money, you can buy me one. But yeah, fantastic piece of hardware there. So Hector is back. All right. Is there a way to turn Lightroom Mobile into a viewer where I don't have to worry about adjusting my settings? I know there's some type of show setting, but it seems more restricted as a viewer than it should be. Yeah, if you go to, let me see, I'm pulling it up here. If you turn on the, where's that function? I thought there was a, oh yeah, that's where it is that changed. It is somewhat restrictive, but where you're kind of just looking at almost like a slideshow where you're just having people see the images as a viewer without them changing anything. It is restrictive, but I guess that's kind of the trade-off we have right now. I don't know of any other way to do that, but that's just yeah, it's an evolving product. I think we're going to continue to see new stuff sneak in there and bigger stuff appear in both products. Hopefully it'll expand onto the Android tablet side of things. And I hope really that's going to take the desktop side of Lightroom in new places too, to give us a lot more flexibility down the road. So I'm glad to see them doing it. I wish it was more robust. Everybody does, but it's still a version 1 product. So it's got a ways to go. Richard's asking about another Wacom question, the Intuos Pro. Yes, yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. There's lesser, price versions of the Wacom tablets, the Bamboo and other things, but I'm talking about the Intuos Pro. That's the one that I use. That is, for a photographer, you'll use a lot of the functionality there for sure. Lars, thanks for understanding, and thanks for the suggestion. I think that's a good one. All right, so if you haven't already, pop your name on the event page there, and I will pick a couple of people at random for the prizes, and I will contact those people, and I will post their names on the event page so that we know who they were once I've got that all settled. So thanks for bearing with me, and thanks for all the great questions. One more question from John. Can you import pictures from your SD card to Lightroom Mobile and then move them to your desktop? No. Not really, no. I mean, so Lightroom Mobile is really, yes, you can import photos that are on your iPad or phone, but it's JPEG only on that side. So I can take pictures with my phone and import those JPEGs. If I were to somehow copy the raw files to my phone, I can't import those into Lightroom Mobile via my phone. But I can import those raw files from my SD card into my Lightroom desktop catalog and add them to a collection and sync that collection via Lightroom Mobile, and then see on my phone or on my iPad or on my Android phone, essentially what are smart preview versions of those photos on those devices, and then edit them and do stuff and have that stuff sync through. But Lightroom Mobile is not a way to tether your camera to your phone or your iPad or your Android. It's not a way to import raw files in the field into your iPad and anything like that. Could that happen in the future? Sure, but it's still pretty limited right now. So good question, thank you. All right, so I cleared out the question queue. I will be signing off. I thank again our sponsors. Thank you all for your questions and your time on this Saturday. And I look forward to seeing you next month, which we haven't set the date yet, but we will be back here again next month and every month thereafter. So, Levi, where are you, Levi? He's going to come on 11 o'clock Pacific time, isn't he? Oh, well, it happens. All right, take care, everybody.